Hello and welcome to the Yacht Channel podcast. We will be talking with an award-winning yacht designer today who is based in London, but he was born in New York, and from an early age he knew that he wanted to be a yacht designer. His first job was here in Newport, working for one of the local boat builders, but he was quickly recruited to go to New York and work for Sparkman and Stevens, who are the equivalent of Kemper and Nicholson's in terms of pedigree yacht design here in the United States. Here you can see a preview of one of his most outstanding designs, which is on Diamonds Are Forever, which was commissioned as a 60-meter Benetti for a well-known American yachtsman. He's also been involved with some very innovative designs of production boats with Ocean Alexander. And you get a little taste of that here, and we'll talk about that with designer Evan Marshall, who is joining us now.
Morning, Paul.
Good morning, Evan, and welcome to the Yacht Channel podcast. A brief intro talking about the big variety of things that you have done and a little bit about what you are doing. And so I'd like to get into those individual projects. I also found it was an interesting path that you followed to get there.
It, as one should, and I think from the time I was a young child, perhaps I've got boat sketches going back to about 4 years old. That's all I wanted to do was, to be a boat designer. And I didn't really necessarily have a path in mind. I just, as I kind of had been schooled by both my parents, you just sort of go after things that you are interested in, and you let the opportunities come, so from joining S&S to moving to London to work briefly for Andrew Winch and then setting up my business there, I never kind of had a fixed plan in my head. I always just took each opportunity as they came. And how I got the job at S&S in itself is a funny story, because I was working at Shannon Boats at the time, literally doing grunt work. We were doing the tooling on a new 42-foot sailboat that Walter Schultz had just designed, and I was sanding away. We were literally in the tooling shop building the new superstructure, and over the tannoy came a message: Evan Marshall, please come to the front office. Sparkman Stevens from Bill Langan from Sparkman Stevens is calling. And so everyone looks at me and says, "What the hell is someone from Sparkman Stevens calling you?" They knew I was studying yacht design, but so I went to the office, and there was Bill Langan on the phone, and I'd met him maybe 2 years before, just kind of casually. And he said, "Evan, we know you've just kind of learned that you finished design school, and we've just had a designer leave, and we really need to fill that spot quickly. Would you be interested in coming down for an interview?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. I'm here, doing a summer job at Shannon. I'll be finished by the end of the summer, and I'll come straight down." And say, "No, we need you to come down tomorrow."
At that time, Sparkman Stevens was the legendary Designers of America's Cup. What a place to land in. That's right at the top.
At that time, to be quite frank, it was a transition period. Francis Kinney, for example, was still working there. Francis Kinney had written, Skeen's Elements of Yacht Design. Mario Tatabokia was still working there. He literally, many people don't know this, but he had literally drawn all of the lines, working with Olin for every 12-meter S&S had produced. And we were still drawing everything by hand at that time, no computers. So it was truly, and my office was right opposite Rod Stevens' office. So it was truly a great learning experience.
It sounds like you're still involved in that world.
Behind you is a 1938 yawl Skylark that I didn't look at the time, but now I race on every summer. And it's a joy, because now at all of the regattas, we see Manitou, we see Blitzen, we see so many of the legendary S&S boats that we now compete against. They're still racing strong and being maintained.
My father had a 1948 vintage Sparkman Stevens sloop that actually won the Bermuda race one year when Howard Fuller owned it. But to your point about the plans, the current owner, who's a young man, was able to go to Sparkman Stevens. They're doing the restoration now, complete restoration, and pull out the original plans and get all the details. And it's phenomenal. And I can't think of, there is no other design house in the United States with that kind of legacy, and also it's the equivalent, I suppose, of Camper Nicholson's design house on the south coast of England.
That is correct.
It's quite an arc, mid-career arc, but to see some of these other projects that you're involved with now, just different universes, I suppose, that you've traveled through.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I left S&S, is that I could see that there was a trend coming out of Europe, especially where styling was being emphasized in a way that we were not considering. I took the opportunity and I took the experience I had and I moved on.
All right, well, this is one of the examples of your more recent work here.
Yes, Cocoa Bean, and every yacht has a background that, as a designer, we bring to it. This owner loved the yacht Limitless, and he was very specific how he wanted this yacht to look. And at the same time, his family, said we are very casual when we go boating. Even though we want a large yacht, we really want it to be very intimate and full of our personal effects and artifacts. A lot of the artwork we brought from their previous yacht, and we literally designed specific locations for that. So it really was very well integrated. And although this boat was finished a few years ago, we still work with the clients. We're just replacing carpets and various other things for them now.
Where was that built?
She was built at Trinity. This interior was built in New Zealand, which is remarkable when you think of it, that, literally all the templating, was done by the factory coming on board, taking some templates of the yacht, and then us producing the design drawings. It was also one of the first designs we did when we changed from drawing by CAD to then modeling in 3D. So this.
Should we go to Zoom?
My first Trinity, and this is such a one where you get opportunities from friendships and connections. And Jim Eden, who was a broker, came on board a project at a boat show. I think it was the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, and he said, "Evan, come on with me. I'm going to a party that Trinity is hosting on one of their boats." So I went. And at the reception on board was Felix Abatis, who I'd met, but I really didn't know him. He said, "Evan Marshall, listen, we really need to maybe get you to do some of our designs. Would you be willing to come out to the yard and we want to launch a new look, a new generation of boat?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I went out there, and Zoom was the result of that. And that was the first of the Trinities with the split level master stateroom. Several boats were built following that theme. What you get is a master stateroom, which is on 2 levels. So you get the increased ceiling height on the lower level, on ones where there was a lounge on that upper level. But it was the start of a very fruitful relationship with my company and Trinity Yachts. I think we did about 7 or 8 yachts in total, culminating with Cocoa Bean.
So we'll move on to Diamonds.
Yes, Diamonds, that's another long-standing relationship we've had with a client who John and Jeanette Staluppi, who I first met in 1995, perhaps just after I'd started my own office, and I was introduced to them by Frank Mulder, the naval architect. And from that meeting, we've done several projects together. And, John and Jeanette love, once they get a boat, they want a new boat. And I can say through the years, we've been involved with the majority of them. But with Diamonds, as always, the boats were to have a James Bond name and theme. He named all of his yachts after James Bond. And when this project started, Casino Royale was in production, but they hadn't released the name of the movie yet. I think both he and Jeanette just said, "Diamonds Are Forever." And then for me as a designer, I thought, perfect. We can go to town with that name in terms of what we do on the interior. Because on this yacht, we only did the interior. So of course, we blinged this boat out to the max and really had just a fantastic time working with different specialists for glass, for paintings, for you name it. And that's also what I love doing on the interiors. Those coffee tables, the chairs you see there, everything is custom designed. And the theme obviously was opulence, extravagance.
Yeah, I showed that boat a couple of times, and I must say, you took it to the max.
Absolutely, and that's what we do because that was
Yeah.
what clients really wanted to express. We have other clients who want very minimalist interiors, and we love that. We don't. I don't profess to have a style because I'd rather be challenged than use our creativity to delve into any style. And I love the opulence of Diamonds Are Forever. I love the contemporary minimalist feel of other projects, and that's where we're able to have the opportunity to work with many different clients because we don't try and cater to a particular taste. Very similarly with Lady Linda for Doug and Linda von Oman, who wanted a more equally elegant yacht, but not over the top. And on that yacht, we did both the exterior and the interior. Oh, and that's a fantastic picture. She was making a passage from to Gibraltar, and then in the middle of the Med, there was a storm that just descended, and a couple on a cruise ship were photographing the ocean state, and all of a sudden saw this yacht up and down through the waves. I think I might have even shown the pictures to the principals of Trinity. Said, look what she just had to endure. And at first they were like, oh my God, that's totally voided the warranty. And then the buzz started going around, look how strong Trinity's are. Because literally not a single piece of artwork, not a single piece of delicate, sculpture was damaged. And then all of a sudden Trinity had these photos up on their stand saying, look how strong our boats are. So it's something oftentimes we don't think about. We design these yachts, we see these pictures of them, they're very static. They look like everything is in their perfect position. But, like myself and you who enjoy sailing, we know that these things are designed to go to sea, and the sea isn't always a calm, gentle state.
So, Evan, I've also seen that you are involved with production yachts, in particular with Ocean Alexander, where you've done some really interesting designs.
We are focusing a lot of our attention with Ocean Alexander. It's a partnership that's almost 8 years old now, and they brought us on board to revamp the style of their yachts, going back to their tradition as a builder that was known more for West Coast yachts. Is a sort of challenge I love because you're working with product, you're working with marketing, you're having to understand what the market would like to have. With this, we have the challenge, like an automotive designer, to really be very careful and mindful. Where's the market going? Where can you be a leader in that respect? So that's a challenge I really enjoy. The smaller boat series, the Divergence series, the outboard boats, and that's a whole nother line. And that really required that we learn about a new way of going boating. Again, I had to put my thinking cap on. I had to understand this is the new 45 Cruise. So this is the enclosed deckhouse version. There you have an image of one of the center consoles. So, I had to begin the process of learning, what makes for a successful center cockpit. So for me, it's really like being in a candy shop, having the opportunity to do the larger custom yachts, but also to design a yacht, a boat that you see in many marinas.
Having been a Sunseeker dealer in my earlier life, and I also worked in the Ferretti Group, and your designs are really outstanding. Especially where you are, you go into this market and you're squarely up against the Italians and the sort of Fairline and Sunseeker, and they all, in a way, they all seem to copy each other. But you've certainly set off in a unique, really interesting direction here. The amazing amount of light and window and glass is.
But so every design where we feel we can stand out against the more established brands is by the fact that we really bring something innovative to the designs in terms of the use of space within a package that's still attractive. Well, now you jump to something that's on the other end of the spectrum, which is a mini cruise ship project we're working on. Yeah, that's for a company that right at the moment has several hotels in the South Pacific, and what they've come to us through a shipping broker is the desire to create a vessel that has some identification with giga yachts, as opposed to what is happening now with many cruise ships, where they're really just becoming, in my opinion, somewhat unattractive because they're literally just piling on,
That was very
volume on top
polite.
of volume. Now,
That's a
so
polite assessment.
that's a polite way to put it, yes. And we thought, certainly we can create a design that's has some similarities to, to large yachts, and at the same time is big enough to feature spectacular interior spaces. So we have this atrium where we have, elevators that go through 8 decks. And again, this set another challenge for us, because we really, in addition to looking at the class considerations, we had to think about how do you efficiently design a dining room for 200 people. Or so, again, with some of my architecture background, or theater, this theater we had to not figure out, but we had to really think about and compare. So my team and I, spent a lot of time, as one should always do, comparing, looking what is successful out there, and then putting that aside and saying, how can we do something better? I came up with this idea back in the early 90s, a split level stateroom for a cruise ship.
So that's a stateroom, because it does look like a yacht.
So that's the lower level of the stateroom, where you walk in, you have a lounge area and a small area where you can eat, and then you have the balcony, and then you go up those stairs. Yeah, so now that's the upper level, and you have a balcony, so you can look down into the living room level, or you can look out and you see the sea. These are some of the more grand ones. These are the single level suites, but also with.
What do you see as trends? And there's a lot of attention now being given to boats that have less of a carbon footprint or no carbon footprint, and a lot of really radical designs that have come out in the last 5 to 10 years.
Not being on the engineering side, we're not at the cutting edge, but we are mindful that more clients are asking for sustainable materials to be used. So for all the production boats, for example, all of the wood veneers are reconstituted wood veneers, like Alpi, the company Alpi. So we're really not impacting any more endangered species of wood. We're able to, have with companies like Alpi, and there are others, almost any veneer created, whether it's an ebony wood or Madagascar wood or whatever, but it's all being created out of sustainable forests.
What advice would you have for somebody that wanted to pursue that career, a young person that's still in school, for instance?
Yeah, no, I tell them, be open to what is out there already, and by looking at magazines and now the web, really familiarize yourself, just immerse yourself in what's out there and learn. Take the opportunity to learn. That's what I was grateful to have, when I worked at S&S and sailed and raced, and, had, that's really what's quite important. It's important to spend time on yachts, because you hear from the captains, you hear from the crew, you hear from the owners. And to be really good at what we do, we have to listen to all of them. I'm as mindful of what the crew and the captains have to say sometimes about storage and safety as you are about what the owner says he wants in his yacht. So for a young designer, you have to have a bit of humility starting out, and recognize you have a lot to learn, even if you're very talented, or you have some talent, to recognize there's a lot to learn to really be good in this industry, and to create successful designs.
Yeah, good advice. Good advice. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. And there are going to be links around the end of this podcast for people to be able to get back to your website, which is great. It's got a lot of good information. And we'll also put some links into some of these boats that you've designed for additional information beyond what's on your website. And hopefully we'll be catching up with you again in the future.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you in Newport, my old hometown. I used to live there for a couple of summers. I miss it. Haven't been there for a while.
Hopefully we'll all be able to travel again soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. We'll be back in about a week with another podcast. In the meantime, please submit comments or suggestions in the links below, and we look forward to seeing you in about a week.